Hey guys, welcome to another ride in the Struggle Bus, where every wheel is an empty triangle. On today's Struggle Bus Basics, we have a real-life example of a game where using the Struggle Bus Basic Rules will help us figure out where we should be playing. And I thought it was a really good example because it really pulls in together like all of the rules. So I wanted to show you guys just an in-game example of a game that I just reviewed that goes over how I think about using the rules. And I know with the bus rides, I go through that a lot, but this example was just like perfect to really just show everything. So I just wanted to go over this example in this really short video to help you guys, really picture how to use those rules in your games and how to avoid falling into some of the traps that we fall into. So let's get into the example. Okay, so here we have the board in front of us that we're going to be taking a look at. And I'm not going to go over how the game got here because I really just want to focus on the board at hand. And so we've got the rules listed on the side over there. And you want to know what? Before we get into this, let's do a pop quiz. Those are always fun. Pause the video if you need to. But so the rules are right there. Go and take a look at this board for yourself, applying the rules, and come up with what move you would play here. Take your time on this one and, give it some thought and figure out where would you play here? Where does following the rules get you on this board? And then after you've done that, we can go over together how I take a look at this. So hopefully you have your answer now. So let's get into applying the rules. So first rule is corners before sides before center. And you'll see that we've been following that well enough, right? All four corners have been taken first, and now we've made this exchange up here. And so the question is, how would we be applying that here? Well, the corner is already secured. The side isn't secured that much. And there are three, mostly open corners still. So do we go after the corners or do we do something here? And we'll be able to figure that out with the rules. But that's what I'm, that's how I'm looking at rule number 1 here. So rule number 2 is balancing third and fourth line stones, and that goes along with rule number 3 as well. Those two rules kind of go hand in hand, and rule number 3 says, unless we need it for life and death, avoid early first and second line moves. So those two rules kind of tell us that early in the game we care about third and fourth line stones and not as much about second and first line stones. So focusing on that, I would be considering a third or fourth line stone here. So we could look at extending. We could look at connecting here, right? This is our third, this is our fourth line stone. Moves that I wouldn't consider for rule number 3 is, a first or second line move over here because it's just a little too early for first or second line moves. So that's what those two rules are telling us to do here. So the next rule is not really relevant here. That's do not attach to any weak stones. That isn't applicable to the board in front of us. But the next rule absolutely is. It's one of the most important rules, though they're all important. And that one is not every stone is important, which I've changed the title of. It used to be do not save every stone, but this is a better way to phrase that rule. So with that in mind, turn these off real quick. We have a stone that's in trouble. If we don't do something here, black could play S16 and capture our stone. The question is that important? And in this case, the answer is no. If you watched the video on how to figure out if we should be saving stones or not, you'll be familiar with the rules that I ask myself. And the first one is this stone needed for life or death? Does it affect life and death of any nearby groups? And the answer is no. Black is already alive. White is already alive. And so then the next couple of questions basically just go into, well, if it doesn't affect life and death of anything, is it just big enough to save? And the answer is no here. That stone is not worth saving. And so I would not be considering doing anything to save that stone. Our last and also very important rule is to protect our cuts. And we have a very obvious cut at P17. So now we kind of circle back on, should we Tanuki or not? right? Because we're saying the corner is secured and, the side is somewhat, but we have this cut here and we have a rule that says protect your cuts. And so because of that, I would not consider tanukiing here. I would absolutely fix this cut and I would not do anything on the right-hand side. So then the question becomes, do we just fix the cut? Do we attach directly or do we extend? And I think either of these moves are playable. If you chose one of these two, I think that is perfectly acceptable. I would probably just extend. It's a larger move in this case. When we're talking about balancing third and fourth line stones, we already have some third line stones here, so I'd like to see a little more fourth line stones. This does still leave the cut here, so it's important to note, but it shouldn't be a problem because we're pushing out ahead, so this cut shouldn't become a problem later. But if you're worried about that cut and don't want to deal with anything that could come up later, then you can connect. I think either move is fine, though I would be playing the fourth line move here. So that kind of goes through, how I apply the rules as to figuring out what move we would do here. And going back, I think many of us would probably see this and go, oh, we should save that stone. And in the game, that is what happened. White chose to descend here, okay? And which is a little off because this, it's way too early for a first line move. So this breaks rule number 3, which is avoid early and first and second line moves. And it also breaks the rule of understanding that not every stone is important. And so if we're black here, we can go through the same, analysis of the basic rules on what we should be doing. And because of that, we should understand that we shouldn't be following this up by playing another first line move. We should be looking at third and fourth line moves. We should be looking at corners and sides. We should be looking at cuts. And we should understand that our opponent left a cut here. And so we can possibly do something with this. So black could consider taking the cut immediately and then starting what will be a pretty awkward fight for both players. This looks like a difficult fight. If black doesn't want to get that deeply involved, they could consider just taking the Atari so that white cannot develop the top side. And as black, this is probably what I would consider here. I think this is the move I would end up playing again just to stop white from being able to take a large side because, again, as white, I would have played 016 to help develop that. And so I think as black, I just want to stop that from happening. And going back, I'm sure many of you are looking at this and going, well, why wouldn't we just play this for free? It's Sente, right? Obviously we want to come back to 07 to back to 016, but this is Sente. And the issue here is that this move isn't Sente because these two stones are not important. They're not worth saving. And you might be coming back and thinking, well, sure, but my opponent just played this move, so they obviously care about these stones, so they're going to protect. And that's also true for now, until you start playing against stronger opponents. As you start getting stronger, your opponents are also going to start getting stronger. And perhaps they've even watched this video, and they watched it a couple of months ago. And, they weren't thinking too hard, and they played this move and they realized, crap, I just made a mistake. This is not the right move. I should have tanukied, or I should have played 016. It's such a larger move. I can't believe I made this mistake and played an early first line move. And then you're playing against them and you play this and they go, whew, okay, I made a mistake, but my opponent did not punish me. And they realize they made the mistake and now they play away. And now you look silly for having played the first line move. And then you go, well, I'm going to go take those two stones. And it's like, well, I'm fine with that. You can have the stones and now I get another very large move. Or I get another very large move. And so really all black got here were 4 points, and white was able to get 2 free moves. And so it's an easy trap to fall into A, save the wrong stone, and then see that your opponent did that and go after the stones. That's what ended up happening in this game, is both players had their opportunity to take the big Sente move, but neither player did. And so I think that this just was a really good example to show all of the Strugglebus Basic Rules that, all of them coming together and helping us decide where would we play here. And it's a lot to go over, I understand. We're not doing this every single move. It'd be way too much work for you to stop and go, let's apply all the rules to this move to figure out where to play. It would take too much mental effort to do that. But what we're trying to do is get you to a point where these moves are more natural for you. If you repeat them over and over again, you'll start understanding. You know, you wouldn't even consider T14 as a move. You don't need to go through all the rules to realize we shouldn't be playing a first line move here, so you wouldn't even consider that, and you would look at other options. That is the goal of this series, and I thought that this was a good example to go over that. So that's where we're going to leave this one today. Thank you guys for coming out for another ride in Strugglebus, where every wheel is an empty triangle. Have a good one, guys.